Hey, peace and love, family. Um, it's like a part two of the last video I did talking about travel, jurisdiction, status, and rank. Um, More particularly pertaining to the travel ban and foreign national exemptions, things of that sort. Um, I do want to keep people informed and let everybody know that I have videos on pretty much 80% of what I'm about to break down. But not all of them are here on my YouTube. You might want to go check me out on Patreon. I'm definitely leave the links down below. But importantly on there for everyone that is a Patreon, I just dropped a video, and if you're not on there, you definitely want to gonna go and get in on there. I did one on the GSA bonds as far as that discharge process. Um, More particularly, going into the financial responsibility aspect of travel, which is one of the aspects on here, which um, is basically bonding yourself instead of having to have auto insurance through the state, and it goes through all the it meets all of the standards, state requirements for financial responsibility. So when you get a ticket, in your right to travel, if you don't have auto insurance, it's usually for not meeting the standards of financial responsibility. Is how they word it. They'll say that there. It usually won't specifically say not for having insurance, but because it's meeting a financial responsibility requirement, and every state has one. So um, I go into that. So definitely want to check that out. I'll start off with the nationality card here though, because when it comes to travel, um, that's one of the first things that people have an issue with is when it comes to traveling itself. When you get stopped, um, people don't want to give that driver's license or that state ID, and I totally understand. And to be honest, unless you're operating in commerce, you shouldn't. But you do have to give them something. You gotta identify yourself. So for Moors, particularly, you know, through my experience, through others' experience that I work with, you know, dealing with, these matters all through, you know, everywhere in the world where I have Moors that reached out to me from, we dealing with the same issues, and you know, this has been one of the remedies of having your nationality card, and particularly our nationality card, that is up to all of the requirements of the Real ID Act. Now, there are some people that have a problem with that, but I'm gonna go into it a little bit. But you know, it it goes into the issue of jurisdiction. I understand that, and people think that just because something is up to the requirements of this act that is in their jurisdiction, which is not necessary, because part of it is who issues it. Which I get into that particularly um, in just a few minutes. But just jurisdiction in general. Um, when you study law, um, there's personal jurisdiction and subject matter jurisdiction. Now, when it comes to the nationality card, um, it shows you're a private national. It shows that status. So it's not a nationality of a United States citizen. It's a non-citizen national status. So in that sense, you could almost say it's private, which in a sense it is. But by the simple fact that this private ID is up to um, the standards of the Real ID Act, um, we use it as a liaison between the private and the public. Um, which brings me into subject matter, which is the other side of jurisdiction. When you're traveling, subject matter of travel is commerce, and that's in general. You can't stop that. That's you know, the branch of law for travel is under commerce. Whether you're traveling publicly or privately, when you go and look back at what governs the law, it's commerce. Now, not to say that you don't have the right to travel in your private capacity. You absolutely do. The Supreme Court has ruled this dozens, if not hundreds of times at this point. It's a pre-constitutional fact in the Articles of Confederation, the ingress and regress. So you do have the right to travel in your private capacity, but you have to understand that you're going to be approached in a commercial manner. So you shouldn't expect them to even understand, just like with all government, United States or other at this point, for the most part, besides the Moors on this land, are commercial governments. We operate in that personal private status, but they can only operate with a straw man. So we have to um, have a liaison between the public and the private. So we use our nationality cards that is issued out from our jurisdiction, you know, showing our personal private national status, but at the same time it's up to their commercial standards, which are really not even major, and it's nothing that impedes on us. So, we have this nationality card being the liaison, for our private status. And when it comes to commerce, when it deals with Moors and Europeans, the treaty. So our nationality card shows what side of the treaty we're on. We're the non-citizen nationals. Um, so you know that, along with other documentation, is what helps out when you're dealing, with these issues. If you ever stop, that's the first thing, the ID. They're gonna want you to identify yourself. Now, let's go on. Travel bond. Um, Travel bond is um, along the same lines of insurance. It's just I would say a superior concept. You know, um, Government officials, diplomats, people of higher status, people that operate in commerce as well are bonded. You know, Secured parties, know about this being bonded. You know, um, Moors in their fullest of status are secured parties over their straw man. You know, and and definitely have made a claim on that bond, whether publicly or privately, whether with or without a UCC. You know, but like I say, I just did release a video, and y'all want to check that out, going into the details of the financial responsibility, um, and showing, you can use your birth certificate bond, a different bond or bill of exchange, to use as the financial responsibility, to meet that requirement for law, as opposed to having the typical auto insurance and showing, you know, from transportation code, where that's lawful, and it's in every state. You know, um, I just said it. That's something that people in a diplomatic or a allodial status do. You know, so when we're operating, dealing with these people, um, you know, that bond is actually going to go hand in hand, as you're going to see next, with the injunction. But it's a bond with the local government. You know, um, whether it's we're saying they're the foreign government or we're the foreign government, we're still interacting with these people. So the injunction. Um, Next, that is due notice. You know, of your right to travel, but also in the same legal sense, it's a restraining order. So we implement these processes, and from a private side, a private perspective, I'm gonna go into that later on too. But using the admin process, um, and we do that in particular, with the particular officers that need it, that we are going to be putting on notice of our right to travel. You know, so by doing that, you're also operating from your foreign office, um, which operating from your foreign office is being your own postmaster or postmaster general. Now, that's one of the most basic um, functions when you become a Moor, learning how to mail, and especially of officers um, from any Moorish perspective. That should be something either you or someone who is in your office or cabinet, um, however you deem, your ministers, there should be at least one of you that's a postmaster general, knows, um, you know, about the admin process, and if not even have a notary, on your team. Um, when you're operating out of your foreign office, this is how you operate, not just having a temple, but you're able to do business in your consular fashion, if you will, because there are people out here operating in name, but not in true function, and that's one of the things we're showing. But that when you do the injunction, restraining order, giving them due notice, um, in proper form, it's a contract with your local government, along with, like I said, a bond, we just established with the local government, um, and that's to enforce foreign protective order, basically. Uh, it is what these two processes together are doing, you know. Um, so in a travel situation, you've already given them due notice and your bond to being out there, and they're restrained from, even acting upon you, in certain situations or most situations, I'll say, unless it's actually a crime, which is how your injunction should be written up, and with all of these, along with getting your copyrights. I have videos on this here to AA 222141. It's another way to back your ID. Get registered with the Library of Congress. Um, that's a I'll say that's one of the strongest ways to back um, our nationality cards in general too, in dealing with travel, because you get a certificate specifically from the Library of Congress, um, and a receipt showing that you're a claimant to particularly the Moorish nationality card. So not only is there no issue with dealing with, oh, is it fake or something like that, there, like, that's totally out of the question, but also, since you have this certificate from the government, they know that this is actually government ID. Not necessarily issued by their government, but it's registered with their government. as the Moorish American national ID. Um, that's also getting these copyrights that are along with the rest of C and Bay's copyrights. It's a great seal requirement. Um, if you want to be an officer, minister, and dealing with that, getting with you know, great seal minister or officer credentials, and doing that, um, along with some of these other processes I spoke on, in particular getting your nationality card um, as well. Um, it's equal to this stuff is equivalent to your A1 status, which I may have to do a video on this particular. I have one talking about diplomatic versus allodial status on Patreon, um, explaining the difference between those statuses. But A1 status is equal to a visa status for foreign nationals, but it doesn't necessarily apply to us as Moors as um, non-immigrants, you know. But um, essentially, it's dealing with people who, like I was talking about with the nationality card, are non-citizen nationals, or even what you call non-state actors. And these things all get into all of this dealing with the travel and more. Once you master each of these subjects that I put up here, if anybody wants to talk about it, especially if you're close or getting close, but it starts dealing with track two diplomacy, which is a lot of the operations that Moors do here. Um, it operates in that capacity, um, and I'm gonna get more into that in my Patreon, but like I say, a lot of it I just broke down, and I already have videos for this stuff. So if you're interested in most of these concepts, if there's not anything already up on my YouTube, go check my Patreon and follow me on there. Support me, support your brother putting in all this good work, you know. And if it's not a video there, you can request it. But I have stuff for all of this. That's how I'm able to put this together. Like, these are not um, new concepts to me. I'm just trying to break them down and show proficiency to get other people to step their game up, because we need help out here, with all of this here. And um, I'm gonna be looking for an assistant out here in my area. If whether it's somebody from here or somebody that comes out here that's already kind of self sufficient, that can be a partner. I'm actually looking for several partners. Dealing with several areas, and I'm gonna do an official video on it soon. Haven't forgot about it, and I haven't forgot about a few other ones I've talked about. Like, I still have the video coming up about the mandate that the prophet got. I want to go a little bit deeper and show a few documents that I can't do a really quick video on until I have everything that I need to show and prove what I'm talking about, because it's one of these touchy issues that if I'm not defining everything point for point as I do it, I'm gonna get backlash, I know. And even with all of that, there's still gonna be some people that just it's not gonna stick, they're not gonna catch on. But it's not for everybody. um, you know Signs and symbols are for the conscious Moors. With that said, everyone, peace and love.